So today I'm going to talk about Toronto FC in the season preview, and I just have a feeling for this upcoming season, TFC is going to be in for a very similar season that Atlanta United was last year. So remember last year when Atlanta United went on to make it to the playoffs, but then the previous year before they went on to make the playoffs, they had that miserable year where it was kind of a transitional period and they finished 10th in the East. And it just feels like with TFC last season, that was kind of the same thing. They were in a transitional period after immediately they got the hiring wrong with getting Chris Armas and immediately getting fired, and then just kind of punt for the rest of the season. But now knowing the fact that they of course have once again make some big signing, and not to mention getting Bob Bradley from LAFC, I can definitely sense that this team is ready to get back to being a contender in the Eastern Conference. Now, overall, they finished with a record last season with 6-10 and 18, which is definitely not good. And they finished with 28 points. They scored 36 goals last season, but gave up 66 goals last year. And it's safe to say that when you look at some of the signings that they made, they definitely have made some reinforcement and especially spent big in terms of trying to reorganize that back line. And their goal differential was minus 27. They finished 13th in the East, which is second from bottom. And when you look at the last 5 seasons, besides the bad season that they had in 2021, just 1 year ago, they finished second in the Eastern Conference, and they were actually competing for the Supporters' Shield against the Philadelphia Union, and unfortunately they lost out in the end. And of course they were eliminated in the first round by Nashville SC, which that was definitely an embarrassing loss considering they lose to an expansion team that had no prior playoff history coming into that one, and they were also not to mention playing at home at that game. Now in 2019, we know that was the year when they went on to what would be their third MLS Cup appearance in 4 seasons, after finished 4th in the East. Though that was kind of a team that nobody expected to go all the way to MLS Cup. I mean, that was kind of interesting to see how TFC was able to go all the way to MLS Cup that year, but ultimately losing to the Seattle Sounders as part of the trilogy between the Sounders and TFC, and that was the third one. Then in 2018, they finished 9th in the Eastern Conference, and obviously that was probably one of the most disappointing year for TFC. I mean, I would say that year was probably still more disappointing consider the year that they had last year, because at least that year, that was a team that was fresh off of the MLS Cup win and fresh off of getting a double in both winning MLS Cup and winning Canadian Championship, and we're looking to become the first ever MLS team to not only win the CONCACAF Champions League but also to win the treble, and they came so close in terms of doing that, like a penalty kick shoot out away from potentially winning, and also a Marky Delgado miss from of course becoming the first MLS team to win the CONCACAF Champions League. And because of the fact that they were so focused in CCL, and I've mentioned before, when you're so focused on CCL and you try to punt games away in MLS and get yourself in such a deep hole, it's always going to be tough to climb out of it, and TFC wasn't able to climb out of it that season. But in 2017, we know that this is well regarded as one, if not the best MLS team to ever assemble to not only win the Supporters' Shield but also win MLS Cup, which is something that not many teams has done in league history. And I talk about the whole Supporters' Shield curse. It was one of the rare times that curse did not happen, and that is actually the last time we actually see a Supporters' Shield winner that go on to win MLS Cup that season. And you can also maybe say that was kind of a treble winning season either way, because not only they won the shield, but they also won MLS Cup and the Canadian Championship. Now, in terms of players that they brought in during this winter transfer window, oh boy, there was at one point this off season, basically everybody was linked with TFC, and ultimately they did get some of the moves done, and one of the big name that's been linked with this TFC team was Lorenzo Insigne, and they did get that deal done, though technically he's not going to be joining this team until July and until Napoli finished their 2021-2022 Serie A season. And then recently, just I think yesterday, this was announced that TFC have officially acquired Carlos Salcedo from Tigres on a DP contract. And I know I said before the fact that signing a DP as one of your defender, that feels like a kind of broken part of the cardinal sin in terms of MLS DP rule, where you shouldn't be spending your designated player slot on a defender or especially on a goalkeeper. But I'll let this one slide a little bit, knowing the fact that, when you look at the amount of goals that TFC have given up last season, and the fact that, yeah, I mean, they absolutely need some defensive help. I think Salcedo will definitely do so, and there's also a chance that he can, of course, be bought down. I mean, the DP contract that he has, it's kind of almost like an entry-level DP contract, so there's always a chance that they can, of course, bought him down. Now, another defender that they got was Shane O'Neill from the Seattle Sounders, and I won't be surprised. We're going to see Salcedo and Shane O'Neill in terms of being the center back partnership for this TFC team. I mean, obviously, I know some TFC fan will said that maybe Mavinga could be factored into this, but I didn't think Mavinga had a good season last year, and with them bringing these two really good defender, I think those are most likely going to be the two players that is going to be in that back line. Though I won't be surprised Mavinga will still be in the back in the back line, because he has been with this team and has been a starter in that defense for these last couple of seasons. Then they, of course, got Greg Richardson from Minnesota off of the re-entry draft, and then in the super draft they got Lucas Garvan out of St. John's. Now, in terms of players that they lost this offseason, so everybody talked about the players that they got. They actually do lost a lot of players, and especially some depth players in terms of this team, which that also kind of will get into the point where one of the big point I'm going to talk about with this team, and that also kind of was one of the big reasons why last season was such a disaster for this team. So the player that is out for this team, obviously the biggest name is Richie Laryea, who decided to make his big money move to Europe and join Nottingham Forest for, I think, around $5.5 million. Then we saw Marky Delgado going to the LA Galaxy before them finally getting free up in terms of the Dom Dwyer contract, and kind of almost fake FC Dallas in terms of buying out his contract, as he's going to be going there. Then you got Liam Fraser, who recently also made a move to Europe, but to a more lesser known team in Belgium called KMSK Dins. Then you got Omar Gonzalez going to New England, Subasa Endo going to Mountain City in the A-League, Julian Dunn going to Hankham in Norway, and then, of course, one of the bigger departure for this offseason for TFC, and was also part of the Carlos Salcedo deal, is Jefferson Saltado. So basically, it's kind of almost a swap between Tigres and TFC. The fact that that TFC decided to get Carlos Salcedo, and in exchange, they basically send Jefferson Saltado down to Tigres. Now, I know there's still some mixed opinion about whether or not is this the right move, whether or not is it worth it for TFC to get rid of Saltado to bring in Carlos Salcedo. For me, I kind of don't like it, considering the fact that, I think Saltado, even though I know some TFC fans says that he was kind of underwhelming, when you look at the stats sheet and at the time that he, of course, is playing, he can be definitely immense for a defender to handle, and unfortunately, just kind of got no help in terms of the rest of the attack, and I just feel like maybe they could have just kept him on in this team. And also notice, when you look at this out list, I'll mention one specific player that somehow is still on this team, and I have no idea how in the world is he still on this team, even though it looked like for sure he was going to be out of the door. But we also got Luke Singh going to Pacific FC in the CPL, and then in terms of the free agent, you got Eric Zamleta, Erickson Gallardo, Patrick Mullins, and Rocco Romero. All of these guys are declining their contract option when TFC made their end of season roster move. And then, of course, Justin Morrow retiring this offseason. I mean, we knew that was going to be the case when he made that announcement a couple of weeks before the season ended. But now, going back to what I said, notice that there's one player that I didn't name that somehow is not on this out list, and I thought for sure that he was going to be on this out list from the beginning of the offseason, is Josie Altidore. I have no idea how he's still a TFC player. Like, I even had to double check on the TFC website to make sure the fact that he is still a Toronto FC player, and yet he is. I mean, I'm kind of stunned the fact that they decide to not cut ties with him, and especially the fact that does he also maybe occupy a DP spot, and that this is also kind of makes me go back to the whole Saltado and Salcedo trade, and how they could have just kept both Saltado and Carlos Salcedo if they can just cut ties with Josie Outdoor, who it looked like, with how he's been playing with TFC, it looked like his time was going to be done with this team, and the fact that he's still with this team as of now, I mean, it's kind of stunning to see. Now, don't get me wrong, I won't be surprised eventually Toronto might be moving on with him, and maybe some other team around MLS could be interested in him, though I kind of said that, I think, last off season, and look what happened. Nothing kind of happened. So I mean, I'm kind of stunned a little bit that they decided to keep Josie Outdoor, though I kind of also understand why that is the case, because as much as they did bring some sexy name in terms of the attack, there is definitely still some lingering issue that I'll definitely talk about in the concern factor of this team. But the optimism for this TFC team, I mean, of course, getting some big names via the transfer market and back from injury. I mean, getting Lorenzo Insigne, who is considered one of the best winger in the world right now, that is just absolutely amazing. And I've already said that he is definitely going to be the newcomer of the year. And even though I know he's not going to come until July, he's going to completely tear this league apart, and he's going to be a guy that I think for sure, at least at the bare minimum, going to be the candidate for newcomer of the year. But also getting some guys back from injury. So Pozuelo, I think he's going to be ready for this team heading into the new season, and then I know they probably won't get Iowa Quinola until the middle of the season, but getting some star player back in this team is definitely good news, considering injuries was a huge reason, and one of the biggest reasons why this team did not make it to the playoff and had such a bad season. And then of course they got Bob Bradley, who knows how to build a winning team. I mean, at the end of the day, I still think it's a huge mistake for LAFC to let go of Bob Bradley. Yes, I know he had a tough season with that team, but I don't think a lot was fault on him, and especially I fought LAFC last season, and I know this might sound crazy, but at times they were very unlucky, and it was just at time the only reason why this team weren't able to win games is the fact that they couldn't put the ball into the back of net. I mean, you can look at all the expectancy goal chart and how they were like near the top of the list, and the reason why they weren't able to win games despite being at the top of the list of the expectancy goal record is that they just couldn't put those one in. And this also is another one of those small reasons why I don't really dig into terms of looking at the expectancy goal stats. But there's no doubt that I think Bob Bradley is gonna get to this TFC team, and he's gonna bring a winning culture, and no doubt he's also going to try to spend big too, because I'm pretty sure, knowing the fact that this is the most ambitious team in MLS and the team that have spent tens of millions of dollars in the past couple of seasons and spent the most out of any other team in MLS, he's not going to have lack of cash in terms of trying to splash out, and it's already proven with the way that when they got Insigne for that insane $15 million contract per year. Now, the concern for this TFC team, lack of depth. And this is something that I, once again, have to say about this team, and the fact that maybe this could once again be the downfall of this team again, because, you would think last season, with the way that I've talked about how, yes, they have some good star player on this team, but the fact that when you look past those good players that they have, and those starters that can definitely be a game changer for this team, they have no depth whatsoever. And when you also look at how many players that they let go that was part of the depth chart, yeah, it kind of didn't make sense. The fact that, you let go a bunch of those guys and you didn't even think about replacing them. So in some way, they're even more lower in terms of the depth chart, or they're more screwed in terms of lack of depth than they are last season. So yeah, that was kind of a little bit of bizarre, the fact that they didn't really sign a lot of depth pieces to kind of improve it, because it's pretty clear that, when you look at this team, if they go for another injury crisis again last season, don't be surprised if this team is going to once again have a season like they have last year. Can Pozuelo basically carry this attack until Insigne and Aquino come back to this team? And I probably also should add Josie Outdoor, because I'm assuming he's going to be the number 9 for this team. Like, obviously, they don't have Dwyer anymore in this team, or Patrick Mullins, so their only depth chart in terms of that number 9 position is Josie Outdoor, and I guess maybe that's kind of the reason why they kept him, because they let him go. They really don't have anybody there to play that number 9 position. So yeah, I have a feeling both of these guys will need to, of course, step up, but mostly Alejandro Pozuelo, who again, I think he's going to be coming back this season, and he should be ready for the beginning of of this season. I mean, I could be completely wrong. TFC fan, let me know in the comments below. But if he is back, I just have a feeling he's going to have to carry this team because he's really the only good attacking option and got a guy that, you know, there's a reason why he won the MVP a couple of years ago. He can literally carry this TFC team on his back and able to guide this team to glory. And we'll see whether or not if he can do that until the real talent comes back from this team. And then, of course, the other issue for this TFC team, goalkeeper problem. So, you know, they still have both Quinton Westbrook and Alex Bono as their goalkeeper, and neither of them look good last season. And, you know, I don't know. Like, I don't know who exactly they're going to choose. Are they going to kind of once again do a hot potato situation where 1 week they put Westbrook there, and then 1 week they put 1 week they put Bono in there? And knowing Bob Bradley and how he kind of had a similar situation with LAFC, where he kind of also had to kind of juggle the goalkeeping position. You know, at 1 week he of course put Vermeer, and then 1 week he put Sesiaga back in the 2020 season, and then just recently he also had to balance that too, whether putting Sesiaga or Romero in goal, and later Blackman in goal for LAFC. Yeah, he's going to have the same issue once again in this one, and I won't be surprised both Westbrook and Bono will just kind of bounce back and forth in terms of being the goalkeeper of this team. And when you have a team that doesn't have a solution in terms of that goalkeeping position, and you have to kind of flip-flop every single game, that's not really a good success in terms of trying to build a good team. But well, we'll see whether or not if they can, of course, figure out, and especially whether or not Bob Bradley will know exactly who his goalkeeper is going to be heading into this season. Now, in terms of MVP for this team, it's going to be Alejandro Pozuelo. I mean, I want to go with Lorenzo Insigne, but again, I just think Pozuelo is the MVP, consider the fact that he's going to be the guy that's going to carry this team until, as I mentioned, Insigne and Akinola is going to be here. And even when they're here, he's still going to be a big part of this team. Now, comeback player of the year. This is one of the rare times that I actually decided to go with the same name, but it's kind of true. I would say that Pozuelo will once again have a comeback year. I mean, I will also give a shout to Ayo Akinola, who, you know, he definitely wants to have a good comeback year after suffering that torn ACL last season during international play. And knowing the fact that he is attracting a lot of attention over Europe, he wants to have a good comeback year so that he can join Rich Hillary of being sold to Europe for a big money move. But there's no doubt that Pozuelo is going to be a guy that, you know, if he's going to have a good season, he's definitely going to be in the conversation in terms of being comeback player of the year this year. Now, expectation for this TFC team, make the playoffs. I mean, it's obvious that is kind of like the bare minimum for a team that has spent so much money. Win the Canadian Championship to get back to CCL. It's hard to believe that this team have not been into the CONCACAF Champions League since 2019. And yeah, let's not talk about what happened in 2019 when they were in CCL and how they got embarrassed against Taro FC, a Panamanian team. But yeah, these last couple of years, they aren't able to replicate that same success because they keep losing to Montreal in the Canadian Championship final. And I know this year is not going to be easy to try to get the Canadian Championship crown, because I know when you look at Montreal, and I've already talked about how they also have a very decent team in their own. That CCL final, if it's going to be TFC versus Montreal once again, that's going to be a very, very good Canadian Championship final. And then, of course, the other expectation is at least Insigne turn out to be a candidate of the newcomer of the year. I mean, again, I really buy in the hype, the fact that he is going to do well in MLS, and something tells me that also means that he's probably going to be a bust, because there's times where I tend to really buy stock on one specific player, and not all the time they actually turns out to be good. But I just have a gut feeling that, you know, with him being one of the best winger in the league, he is really going to be a difference maker for this TFC team. But yeah, either way, that is pretty much it for the season preview for Toronto FC. Let me know in the comments below what do you think of this video, and if you're a Toronto FC fan, what's your optimism, your concern, and most importantly, your expectation is going to be for this new season. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys hit a like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I, of course, will see you guys next time.